Okay, so continuing on with the Bleach characters, sorry, the characters that are in SSR form within the brand new Bleach game that's soon to come. Kaname is one of them, absolutely broken. Honestly, it's a tough call to make, you know, when it comes to saying that I'm leaving the best character till last, because Kaname is up there being potentially the best, but I'm gonna have to give the slight edge to the last character I look at purely because of their Bankai, but Kaname is absolutely cracked. So you guys have to bear with me. He has got a lot going on, and these final two characters do offer a little bit more, an additional skill, as you could say. So let's dive on in. We'll start with the passive. There's a lot to look at. So with Kaname's passive, number one, or the first thing, Ringing Fate. Enemies that are in the Ringing Fate state are unable to hit Tosen, who is in a standby or moving state, or has finished wielding his skill after attacking. When other abnormal statuses have been inflicted on enemies in the Ringing State Fate, they will also enter the Hell of Ignorant state at the same time. And what Hell of Ignorant state is, enemies in the Hell of Ignorant state will lose the super armor effect provided by the Ryetsu bar, and the Ryetsu restore speed will be reduced massively. Non-boss enemies will also descend into a sluggish state when they stop attacking. Enemies in the Hell of Ignorant state will not suffer this effect again within the duration, which is pretty much a given, I guess. And his last part of the passive is Bleeding. When the Gnaw inflicted on the enemy reaches 100 points, they will receive one layer of bleeding. Each layer of bleeding will subject the enemy of 5% of Tosen of attack, sorry, every 2 seconds, lasting for 10 seconds. Bleeding can stack up to 50 layers. So yeah, pretty simple on the bleeding side of things, but there's a lot of stats effect on what Kaname is actually providing on his attacks. So moving along to the skill. Tosen locks his target and retreats backward diagonally with one of his shadows. After gathering the enemies to a certain degree, he pulls out his sword, and then he and his shadow will lunge at the target and knock them into the air, dealing 135% damage, and automatically release Sting Shadow Erratic Stab immediately. Now keep in mind with the percentage, again, the skill is level 1. Now with this skill, you will activate the trigger effect Ringing Fate. So the enemy's move will be completely evaded by Tosen when he is in a non-attacking state, and during this period, if an abnormal status are applied, then he will also be trapped in a Hell of Ignorant state, of course. So that's how the stats effect from the passive will play out in multiple ways. So the Ringing Fate comes from the skill itself. So obviously keep that in mind. Moving along to the branch, so of course additional from the skill. Tosen inflicts a dazzling pierce on the enemy from the air and leaves 4 shadows, which then congregate. Tosen appears and slashes the enemy quickly towards the ground, dealing a total of 323% damage. If the enemy is hit multiple times by the skill, they will be inflicted with Ringing Fate. Tosen enters the aerial evasion state through the 4th round on the normal attack. They may also tap the skill button immediately to release Sting Shadow Erratic Stab directly. Alright, so that's pretty much the basis of his skill. Moving along to the ultimate now. So the stats effect from the bleeding side of things is involved with the ultimates. So Tosen splits into countless Suzumishi blade fragments, manipulating them to launch continuous locust-like flying attacks from the air at surrounding enemies for 3 seconds, dealing 510% damage, and each fragment inflicts 50% of Gnaw on hit on the enemies. Hit on enemies? Hit enemies? That was a bit of a wordplay right there. Anyway, so of course at that point bleeding is then applied from the ultimate itself. Now I will admit, every time I did do the ultimate, obviously an animation does play out, it would lag the hell on my phone. So the amount of these little flies, or call it what you will, that are just coming at the enemy, bro, my phone would lag heavy. So hopefully they can fix up on a few things on that. But that's pretty much the bleeding from the enemy. Battlefield skill. Now this is something that none of the previous characters have. Only certain characters have this. Kaname is one of them. The next character, or the last character I inform you guys on, has one. Rukia has a battlefield skill, and Uri also has a battlefield skill. Some of the battlefield skill are very simple in the sense of they just kind of do an attack. So for example, Uru, if you have enough points and if you've met the requirements to activate his battlefield skill, he'll pretty much just jump on in, launch a big arrow and do a ton of damage to the enemy. Certain characters will play around with the whole field, as you will see in, well, as you guys are probably reading right now. There's a whole I think there's a lot to read, but there are trigger conditions. I'll quickly let you guys know what kind of his battlefield triggering conditions are. Is deploy battlefield skill owner Kaname, so of course have the character, right? That's kind of a given. And number two, apart from the owner, deploy 2 other characters of any type. So you need to have 2 different types of whatever character. With Bleach, of course, you go in with a team of 3, so you have to have 2 other characters, deploy them, and then battlefield skill, all the trigger conditions will be met. So there's that. Anyway, so when the enemies are in the Hell of Ignorance state, the team gains 35 battlefield skill energy. Besides, when teammates other than Tosen deal Totsugeki or Zangeki damage to the enemies in the Ring in Fate state, they also gain 5 battlefield skill energy, and the cooldown is 3 seconds. When the battlefield skill energy reaches 100, you can activate the Bankai Realm, Suzumushi, Tsuishiki, and Makorogi by tapping the battlefield skill button. 9 rings will spawn from the hilt of Suzumushi, generating an enormous realm that engulfs Tosen and the enemies around him. In this lightless and soundless world of ignorance, the enemies will be deprived of their hearing, vision, smell, and sense of the Yatsu, descending into the Hell of Ignorance state, where all super effects are ineffective. So yeah, I've only used this once, and let's just say, obviously it being an PvE, being an AI, it was light work, I'm gonna be honest. I'd activate this battlefield skill and then I'll resort to using obviously the second character or the other SSR that I haven't spoken about, and practically just clean house. Yeah, I'm eager to see how all of this is going to be affecting PvP, because from PvE perspective it's too broken. I don't see how this is going to be fair, but I'm eager to see on how if things change up. So continuing on, Tosen, who is holding Suzumushi, will not be affected and his movement speed in the realm will be increased, although no battlefield skill energy can be gained within the realm. Participating teammates can acquire an equivalent amount of personal mechanism energy. So I believe that's the Hell of Ignorance. Yeah, so yeah, Hell of Ignorance is the trigger status effect from this battlefield skill. It will just instantly put them in this trigger effect, of course, or status, sorry. So that's the battlefield skill. That's the new unique thing that certain characters have. Now we're getting into the normal attack. You're gonna have to bear with me because there is a little bit more to the normal attack, but I do have majority of it. So Locust Cry. In a non-Bankai state, Tosen holds Suzumushi and slashes at the enemy in front continuously, dealing up to 5 rounds of 272 damage in total while accumulating his Ryoku. When his attacks hit the enemy, the 4th round of the normal attack will knock non-super armor enemy into the air. While Tosen himself will also enter the aerial evasion state and unleash 4 Benihyoko short strings. Each short string that hits the enemy will inflict them with 50 points. I assume bleed. This attack does have the trigger effect of bleed, just yeah. Now going furthermore with the branch of the normal attack, when Kaname Tosen's own Ryoku reaches 100, you may hold the normal attack button to teleport swiftly to the enemy and slash them, dealing 16% damage after a brief delay. Tosen will sheath his sword, while powerful Ryotsu will surge on the trajectory of his previous teleportation, dealing another 61% damage to all enemies on the trajectory. So a bit of AoE going on there. Moving along, after Tosen completes his first slash, you may tap the evasion button immediately, at which time a shadow will be left on his original location to help Tosen sheath his sword subsequently and trigger damage from the Ryotsu surge. The Zangeki and Totsugeki damage taken by enemies hit will increase by 30% for 20 seconds. So that's an additional trigger status called Soundless, I believe. So that's something that wasn't said in the passive, but yeah. But yeah, he does have bleeding on his normal attack. And then you got the block. So after Tosen successfully blocks an attack from an enemy, you may tap the normal attack button immediately to release a flash wing slash directly, dealing 374% damage. So that's kind of like him just kind of running through you, I guess, you know. And then the evasion, when an enemy attack is about to hit you, you can seize the right timing to avoid the attack with evasion. When holding the evasion button, you may release the 4th round of the normal attack directly and generate double the number of Benihiko short strings by consuming double the evasion energy. So now we're getting into the dupes. I actually haven't looked, I mean, well, from when I'm recording this, I haven't actually written up his dupes, so I kind of forgot. So this is actually me first time reading it, because I haven't actually, when I was playing the game also, I haven't really looked into it. So his 3rd dupe, Dying Light. So the duration of the battlefield skill, I'm not going to read all that, is extended by 2 seconds, and both enemy and allies within the realm will enter a ring and fate state lasting until the realm disappears. Allied fighters can still hit the enemy normally when they are in the ring and fate state. Okay. All characters in the ring and fate state will have the damage they take increased by 17%. That is good. That is real good. Okay, and then going over to the 6th dupe, the Path of Blood. The efficiency of all characters in the team in reducing the enemy's Ryetsu bar is increased by 15%. The damage dealt to enemies in Ryetsu exhaustion state is increased by 15%. Jesus, wait, wait, Kaname, hold on, you might be god tier, my guy. And then the last dupe, if you completely max him out, when all characters in the team hit the enemy with skills or normal attack branches, they will deal an additional damage equaling to 110% of Tosen's attack. This effect can be triggered once per 3 seconds. When hitting a boss type enemy, this damage will be increased according to the degree of reduction of the current Ryetsu bar, up to a maximum of 100%. When hitting an enemy without a Ryetsu bar, this damage is increased by 100% by default. Okay. Alright, fair enough. So, like I said, I'm leaving, well, I left the good SSRs till last. I was not aware of that, of his dupe system. Jesus Christ, those dupes are insane. So that's kind of in a nutshell on how his current early build is working. I will say there's a lot going on with this character. The battlefield that he obviously applies, again, does sound broken. Character sounds full-on broken. I do expect changes to come, maybe. Again, with what I experienced, it's all on a PvE perspective, so that's all I've got to work with. But as you're reading about it, trying to put it in a PvP perspective, it's I don't know, it's like, where's the balance, you know? But you know, they've got time. I mean, when it comes to PvP or whatnot, I mean, you know, I'm sure they'll figure it out and whatnot. But PvE side of things, AIs, etc., what we're trying to go against, Kaname is an SSR that you might want to look out for, potentially maybe pull. We do know there's more new characters coming in for the next beta that's going to be happening soon, so we'll see what those characters are capable of. We'll see if they actually change up Kaname. But yeah, battlefield skill is a new skill that only certain characters have, so certain characters do have the upper hand now, so now you know. But yeah, if you're a Kaname fan, he's here, and he's damn broken.